ES Audio.
Hello, I'm Mark Blunden, and this is the Evening Standard's Tech and Science Daily. Coming up, it's a King Charles Coronation Tech Special. Yes, it's an auspicious day for the Evening Standard's Tech and Science Daily podcast. The countdown's begun to the coronation of King Charles III at London's Westminster Abbey.
We will go on ahead of Her Majesty into the Abbey. We will go within to the splendid scene which there awaits her.
That's how the BBC began its marathon 8 hours of the Queen's coronation coverage in 1953. Now our newly minted monarch's special day will be streamed, broadcasted, tweeted, browsed and clicked in high dynamic range real-time 4K across the world's devices. And you'll probably know it's been some 70 years since the UK last saw a monarch's coronation in the pre-Norman Abbey. So how far has tech come since the days when the film footage had to be flown, yes, by plane, across the Atlantic to the US? Later we'll hear from one of the country's leading media historians. But first, outside Buckingham Palace...
5x4 negative, and the printer was producing these at the rate of, like every 10 seconds.
That's Alex Falk holding an original black and white print of the Queen and a special 1953 coronation edition of the Sunday Telegraph. He was 17 years old, working for the Press Association, and explains how they got photographers' shots across town back to the darkroom.
I was a junior runner on that particular occasion, a very long day, working with photographers, taking their images from wherever they were taking them, back to Fleet Street to get them processed and printed to publish in magazines and papers. We were in the Abbey and up on the scaffolding right at the top, facing them as they walked down the aisle. They were taking pictures. We then took those images on 5x4 sheet film back by motorbike to Fleet Street.
Digital now has transformed photography dramatically, cutting hours of work down to seconds. But can it really capture the magic of historic events in the same way?
Digital travels the world, but it gets lost. Real film, images, get people's homes, displays, and a scene. And hopefully, this coronation will bring it back to people so they can enjoy it. You've got an image. This image is from 53. If you don't print it, you don't see it for the next generation.
Let's go to the ads. Stay there to hear why the old skills are still the best for getting those television camera angles inside Westminster Abbey. Why not hit follow in the meantime? Welcome back. Now we're joined by Jean Seaton, Professor of Media History at the University of Westminster, who's also written a volume of the official history of the BBC. And Professor Seaton's got quite an amazing fact for you from the Queen's coronation in 1953.
The Queen herself, actually against the advice of her rather more stuffy courtiers, in the end said that cameras should go into Westminster Abbey. And in a way, what broadcasting has always done is democratised great moments so that we all get to go to it. And that's what she chose in 53. And I'm sure we will all get to go to it if we want to in any number of different ways.
And we asked how the tech's evolved.
The technology is very different. In 53, so you get cameras for the first time in the Abbey, and they're underground. They're very worried that they will intrude into the reality of the thing. So they are in a kind of sort of hidden hatch halfway down. The only live colour broadcast, which nobody really knew how to do, was experimental live colour, went to Great Ormond Street. So Great Ormond Street children saw the coronation in colour live.
And it took some considerable effort getting the footage to the US audience.
But otherwise they made a film of it, and because of the way in which broadcasting then worked, you could see it live because of hookups all over Europe. The film was sent to America because we couldn't at that point, there were no satellites obviously. Broadcasting into America has to always go via Canada actually, but there was both an absolutely vast audience in the UK. I, as a very small child, saw television for the first time in a neighbour's house. We didn't have television until much later.
And let's hear it for the backroom staff.
There's a huge technological backroom effort to bring off the most interesting events. And if you think about where the cameras are, and the BBC's pooling with ITV, it's a worldwide event. So there's both an enormous, certainly in 1953, they were inventing how to get colour film to America. They were inventing how to broadcast live to America. The big worry in broadcasting, in fact there was a parliamentary debate on it, was that if the coronation was broadcast live on American television, as they had adverts, would the adverts, come at the wrong time? Would they break into the solemn coronation with, typhoon tea and there was a real worry about that. And that all had to be negotiated.
And we'll wrap up with this honourable mention.
You can put cameramen on podiums and you can hope that people will march in front of them. But nevertheless, the cameraman's capacity to pick up and isolate the mood in the audience, the mood in the streets, the mood in the cathedral. Do you see what I mean? Those little moments, that really depends on cameramen.
You can get real-time info about the coronation at standard.co.uk. And come back at 4 p.m. for the Leader podcast, bringing you the latest news, interviews and analysis from the Evening Standard here in London. We'll be back on Tuesday at 1 p.m. See you then.